Rewritten! Stephen had to get home. Now. But it felt like the whole world was moving to block him. A storm was plaguing the darkening sky, the droplets of rain feeling more like icy hail on his face and back. Wind gales lashed past him, trying to rip him off the ground, flashes of lightning blinding him more than they lit the way. Stephen was running faster than he ever had in his life. Well, unless you count whenever he did the insanely fast magic speed. But try as he might, Stephen was too panicked to even begin activating that power. It had only just appeared, just like everything else that had been happening to him, and he still had no idea how to control it. As usual. His gem was useless unless if it was dangerous to other people. Stephen felt something, a root or a stone, he didn't know, catch on his foot a millisecond before he had fallen heavily into the swirling mud puddles, scattering brown droplets everywhere. He had twisted to fall on his left side on purpose, keeping his hands in one pocket on his right side instead of catching himself. Something very important was held there, and if he let go, he didn't know what could happen to it. He struggled to keep the pocket safe, taking his left hand out of it to push himself up again. He was soaked with both the earth and the rain, but he didn't seem to even notice it. He just got up and bolted off again, rain lashing into his eyes, mixing with sweat and tears. He had to get home. He had to hope that it wasn't too late. He ran and he ran and he ran, his gem still not picking up the slack, fear overriding any attempts to magic his way home. All he could think about was what was held in his pocket. This couldn't be happening. He didn't do this. He could fix it. It wasn't too late. He made it out of the wooded area that circled Beach City, bursting into the town. There wasn't mud on the streets, only puddles and cars, and luckily no people either out in this storm. His feet pounded over the slick pavement, his mind racing through the mental map that he had of the town that he'd grown up in, trying to figure out which way to turn to get home as fast as possible. He leaped across the street, a car roaring by seconds behind him with a squawking beep of a warning, cutting through an alleyway and stumbling over piles of trash bags and abandoned cardboard boxes, not stopping for a moment as he came out of it and sprinted off down the sidewalk. He had to get home. It would be fine. Everything would be fine. He just had to... Stephen was so distracted by what was going on inside of his head that he didn't see what was going on around him. The next time he crossed the street, he saw a flash of headlights and heard the deafening alarms of a horn. A car. The screeching of braking tires filled his ears alongside his own yells of fear, realizing his mistake far too late to correct it. There was a booming crash that was like the lightning bolts above, his whole body jostled by the impact. But as he looked up from where he'd been crouched down, he could see that the car was damaged more than he was. Stephen was panting, trembling, still in shock. He was expecting to be lying on the ground, broken and dying, but he was still standing there, untouched. The car, on the other hand, looked like it had hit a solid brick wall. The front hood was crunched up in ripples, and the windshield was covered in spiderwebbed cracks, the lights flickering and the bumper ruined. He stared down at himself. He was pink again. His skin was covered in a fluorescent pink glow, pulsing powerfully with every ringing beat of his heart. It was bright enough to light up the horrified look of the human driver's face. Right, of course. The glowing pink boy only stayed long enough to ask if the driver was all right, giving them a touch of healing powers with a lick of his fingers in case if something was hurt anyways. But he couldn't afford to answer the various terrified questions they had for him. He just waved them goodbye and yelled behind him, "Find me later, please! I really can't talk right now!" And the glowing pink boy ran away from being hit by a car without a scratch on him. The glow faded as he went, his skin back to its usual pale peach color. The danger was gone, so it went as well. But he knew that the glow would be back, just as it always was. Still, that didn't matter right now. What mattered was that he had found his way to the boardwalk and hurtled off the end, slipping and sliding on the beach's soaking sand, the ocean throwing a tantrum to his right. He was still fighting against the wind and the rain, his home in his sights. It was a beach house, simplistic and cozy during the day, a glassy greenhouse attached to the back. He would have normally been so happy to be home, especially after so many days away from it, but his heart only clenched in fear that it might not bring what he needed right now. Its shadowed outline was sprinkled with rain, promising shelter, but not saying a thing about what Stephen was hoping for. Stephen's sandaled feet slapped against the boards of the porch's stairs, skipping every other step as he went. He exploded into the house through the screen door, his family waiting for him on the other side. Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl. Pearl's elegant, pale figure was pacing back and forth across the living room. Amethyst's smaller, sturdier, purple form was curled up on the couch, a ball of tension. Garnet was standing, already facing the door where he had come through, probably having already seen him rushing back home in so many different timelines running alongside this one with her future vision. "Stephen!" Pearl yelped, high-pitched with worry. "Where have you been?" "We looked everywhere for you," Amethyst added with a growl, already standing off the couch. He hardly looked their way, not stopping for a single reassurance, making a beeline to the bathroom. He wrenched the door open and slammed it behind him, locking it with a flick of his dirt-crusted fingers. "Not now!" Stephen shouted, his choked-up voice crackling in his ears. He could hear the commotion that he had left behind, the crystal gems demanding some sort of explanation. But they didn't matter right now. They were at least all in one piece. They could wait. The only person that mattered right now was the person inside of his pocket. He darted over to the tub, slipping on the mat, twisting the knobs to the highest setting and pushing the plug in. After that, he scrambled back to the cabinets, yanking them open and scooping up 3 vials of liquid. One was a pointy yellow, another was a curved blue, and the third was a glimmering white. He uncorked the bottles and threw all 3 of them inside, their contents spreading outwards from the top, staining the water a glowing swirl of the 3 according colors like a neon milkshake. He added a 4th color, pink, with his own spit, watching the hue join the other 3 until the potion was a mass of shining life. Stephen stayed crouched at the color-filled tub, panting and heaving with tiredness and still quivering with fear, his soaked clothes sticking to his body and dripping onto the mat. He finally took his right hand out of his pocket, slowly and carefully, like he was holding a newborn kitten. His hands were shaking so badly as he held them up to the potion's light, the fingers uncurling to reveal what was hidden inside the palm. A small, pointed, bright orange jewel. The stone was broken into a dozen pieces, the life violently ripped from its once glossy surface. Jasper's gem. Shattered. It was mixed with dirt and mud, the tiny bits of crystalline orange shards too minuscule for him to pick up individually. He had just scooped up the whole area, not daring to miss a single atom. But she was fine. She had to be. Stephen was going to heal her. That's what the diamond essence did. It could heal anything that he couldn't with his powers alone. The other 3 diamonds combined with his powers could cure corruption. Surely they could cure this. Jasper would be standing in the tub in only a few seconds, probably ready to kill him for what he did. Stephen tried to push the shards together into their original position, gently and cautiously. He managed to assemble the biggest pieces back into their angular points like a puzzle, but the fractured lines were still so scarringly visible that she still looked just as broken as before. It was fine, he kept telling himself. She would be good as new in just a few moments. Please, please let this work, he whispered, blocking out the confused calls from outside. What was that? Stephen? What's happening? Seriously, dude? You up and leave for 3 days and the first thing you do is go to the bathroom? Amethyst! I don't know, I'm panicking too. Without hesitating for a moment longer, Stephen plunged his clenched hands down into the tub's spiraling bright colors, holding Jasper's shards together even as they cut him. The extra dirt filtered out between his fingers, the sweat on his hands adding to the pink already in the mixture. White, yellow, blue, pink. All of it swirled and churned, their shines adding to the others, reflecting off of his rain-wet face. "Jasper, I'm sorry. Please come back," he whimpered, his head down and his eyes screwed shut. He could feel the tears stinging their way down his face, dropping into the tub too, helping the glow even more as the magic bled out of him. He waited. And waited. And when he waited long enough, Stephen brought his hands back out. He opened the fingers and stared in utter disbelief at Jasper's gem. She was still in pieces, the shards falling away from each other limply. It looked like duct tape could have done better. "No," Stephen simply stated. He closed his eyes again and dunked them back inside the tub's concoction. No, it's going to work," he said to himself. She just needs more time." So Stephen waited some more. When he took it back out, she was still as broken as before. "Jasper, please, I'm sorry," Stephen wailed as he threw his hands in again with the shards a 3rd time. He held them under, breathing faster and faster, panic gripping him like icy claws from all angles. He lifted her, still shattered. He plunged her down again, pulling her up, shoving her back down over and over again, faster and more frantic every time that he saw the broken pieces in his palms. Up and down, up and down. He prayed, he cried, he pleaded. But no amount of wishing would undo what he did. He couldn't heal this. Eventually, he gave up, letting go of the shards, letting them drift to the bottom of the tub like a lifeless corpse. He stayed clinging to the rim with his bloodied hands, staring at them in disbelief, his vision blurred and distorted. He could feel his heart beating at his chest, trying to escape, every vein roaring with blood, the world becoming distant and warped, so far away, as if he could refuse its very existence if he drifted far enough. The curly-haired boy collapsed onto the bathroom floor, trembling and cold, unable to comprehend what happened. Stephen just killed someone. The one thing his mother wouldn't do.